Let's look at her case files. I think we have a new one, right? Conclusion. Her visions reflect the past. When she was explaining her vision, Cecile described real details that a student like her could not have known about. Therefore, she definitely saw something that actually happened in her vision. Thoughts. I guess I should smoke less or give it up, so I'm healthy. Every time he has to mention it. Goodness. Is it possible to retrace visions of the past? I wouldn't even believed it myself if Scarlet hadn't provided this excellent information. This definitely isn't an everyday situation that an average high school student would find themselves in. Something unusual must have happened to her recently. After all, it's strange to think that Cecile just happened to witness an accident that Scarlet happens to be investigating. Is it really just a coincidence that the two of them met? Okay, I guess we're gonna go to our next stage. In the past, I've often asked myself if the concept of time is just some man-made cognitive illusion, a fantasy. Something you can just free yourself of and your problems will take care of themselves. My book search didn't go well. I've had enough time to rummage through the many collections because Hermitage was so empty. The ground floor had a large collection of medical and pharmaceutical classics, as well as more obscure works, but I couldn't find anything. This whole concept of a vision or a dream coming true is both too special and too vague at the same time. There are many records depicting strange experiences, but most of them are labeled as hallucinations. It's also very hard to verify their authenticity, seeing as they're often labeled just claims without any solid evidence to back them up. There's not much I can do, I'm afraid. Oh, look who it is. It's noon already. Now that I know more about her situation, I might be able to understand and be of more help this time around. Cecile greets me by bowing her head. Her face still looks pale, but it's a little more flushed than last time. She must feel very relieved to have found someone she can share her troubles with. Today is clearly not the right time to sell books. Should we thoughts? Let's talk to her. I was starting to worry that you wouldn't come by today. I'm sorry. The teacher wanted to talk to me about something. It's interesting because in the beginning she says in the beginning she says that she has no friends and that no friends at all. And that she's only bullied, and then that she can never to talk with any of the teachers because they always are just too busy. So, I don't know. Interesting. Oh? Nothing important, really. She's a bad liar. Cecile moves closer to the corner of the room, making herself smaller. She seems really quiet and somewhat uncomfortable. Did you find any clues in the book I gave you? Cecile shakes her head and turns towards me. The text is very hard to understand. It's ancient. Looks like my language classes didn't pay off. Cecile's tone sounds self-critical. Well, I'm sure the author didn't write it thinking that one day a high school student would read it. Personally, I wonder if he ever intended for this book to be read. The writing style is all over the place and hard to grasp. It's hard to make out specific details. You know a lot more about these things than me. Is this just how old texts were written? I can only shake my head. The way it's written lacks composure and often drifts into incoherent rambling. It's definitely not how you document professional research. Let's talk about the book later. I want to talk about some other issues today. Is that why you called me? Because you found something? I'm amazed that she would start talking about this topic on her own. I deliberately take a deep breath and lean forward a little. Yes, I found out quite a bit, and it's scary. This thing is big. There's some things we need to talk about. Well, a lot of things, actually. I got lucky. Finding out more wasn't that much trouble. As you probably expected, these dreams are definitely out of the ordinary. I have so much evidence now that even if you somehow forgot about them, I'd be able to convince you of their authenticity. How did you... The things you see are actual events from the past. I'm sure of that now. Maybe even more sure than you at this point. The big question is, why do you see them? Yeah. Random high schooler who just has weird vision dreams of horrible things. Gotta be some reasoning, huh? I don't like the way this is going. I can understand that it's a lot easier to lie a little here and there. I can imagine how you must feel. I'd never blame you for it. However, you need to be careful. There might be people with ulterior motives out there. People who don't care about your well-being. Stranger danger. Is he giving her the stranger danger talk? Cecile's face suddenly carries a more serious expression, but there's no sign of confusion in her eyes. She clearly understands what I mean. For me, the answer to this whole thing is still shrouded in mystery, but to her it seems a lot clearer. All the more reason to be completely honest with her. As you know, we are creatures of habit, driven by instinct. You worrying about your friend's safety was enough to make you come to me and ask for my help, but it didn't really make you understand the situation any better. Something about your reaction to those dreams made me wonder from the very beginning. You asked me to find out more about what's going on about them, but you seem to take them for granted, as if they're just something that you regularly experience, something expected. You don't seem to question why you have them. People usually don't have any expectations when it comes to their dreams. They're just something that happens. Whereas you jump straight into the process of analyzing them and researching their contents. Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's always a backstory. Always an explanation. You seem to concentrate on the flame and take it for granted. But how is it lit? The young girl is completely silent. My argument might not be the best, but this is simply about convincing her and appealing to her conscience. I just need to make it clear to her that I know what's really going on. That'll get her to talk. Eventually. If I'm not mistaken, these dreams appear quite fairly regularly. You know when they're going to happen. You can even somehow manipulate whether they're going to happen at all. I put further pressure on Cecile. Why do they actually appear? What causes them? I need to know that. And I know you're going to live up to my expectations of you and be honest. She knows more than she lets on. The fact that she's only interested in the meaning of her dreams, and that she's not at all concerned about the fact that she has these dreams in the first place, makes it obvious she's hiding something. I'm a little disappointed in her, to be honest. Cecile is trying to avoid eye contact. Her inner struggle takes her so long that I could finish reading a whole history encyclopedia in that time. But in the end, she comes to her senses, just as I expected. How should I put this? My dreams are connected to something called lilac grass. Seems suspect. She glances towards the doors to make sure that nobody is listening in or watching. Then she pulls out a small blue bag. Is Cecile taking, like, mind-altering drugs? Don't do drugs, kids. It's incense? Okay. I've seen bags with this shape on the streets of Bangkok before. You ignite the tip and it slowly burns down to the bottom. However, this one is less compact. It looks as if it was made by hand. It's also quite large, close to the size of an index finger. What's this? Some kind of incense? Yes. I take the incense bag and carefully sniff the bottom. It smells sweet and woody, but I don't notice a change in my consciousness. Why do you call it lilac grass? Is it drug incense? That's what Eloise told me it was called. I don't know if there's another name for it. Incense and hallucinations? That's a combination that brings quite a few bad stories to mind. I realize that now too, but I didn't think it was a big deal, you know? Plenty of kids carry these bags around and use them. I never gave it much thought because it's so widespread. Help. Lilac grass sounds like the sort of incense adults would use for essential oil massages. My friend said that when the mind is on edge, this can be very effective. We get along really well, so we often work together or hang out after school. And Eloise never mentioned anything about these dreams. She only said that the incense has a calming effect and that it's used to help with stress. Cecile shakes her head and takes the bag from my hands. What? Now we're in the classroom? Or is she in a memory? Memory? We close the classroom window and then light up the incense. It burns for about 10 minutes. It smells very sweet. Like a variety of flowers mixed with juice and water all blended together. The first few times, it only gave me peace of mind. Sounds around me were still clear, and my vision wasn't altered or anything. Just washed my troubles away, made me feel at ease. So this calming effect was the only thing at first, meaning the dreams only started happening after prolonged use? Cecile nods. I also asked Eloise, but she never had a similar dream experience with incense. Maybe everyone responds to it differently, right? I told myself it was nothing to be concerned about. After all, even if there were some horrifying images, they went away as soon as the incense burned up. Just like waking up from a real dream, you know? It was simply over. I put out my cigarette, since smoking seems increasingly harmful right now. So, the incense is the cause of these mysterious dreams. Well, this certainly makes things more strange, but at least now there's a concept that we can grasp. Sorry, I was just worried. I didn't want to get caught pot and be considered some kind of druggie. Yeah, in the end, this is no different from drug use. You should be smart enough to know that. Trust me, I'm really not the kind to preach, but you should be aware that these things can have all kinds of consequences. The fact that things you see are real and have actually happened is what worries me the most. It's not just a fantasy or your brain chemistry playing tricks on you. This is something much more dangerous. Cecile lowers her head. I assume that I got my point across. There's no need to make this even more embarrassing for her, so I decide to move on. It would be irresponsible to stop investigating this now that we know that it's not just fantasy. And you've got your own personal reasons to get to the bottom of this, too. My own reasons. Cecile's face is overcome with a sudden flash of sadness, but she suddenly regains her focus. All those events were real, then I can't just ignore certain dreams. That's right. Like, well, what happened to your friend, Eloise? I need more information if you want to get to the bottom of this. Not just about your classmate Eloise, your club, your school, and this lilac grass. I need to know more. Of course. If only for her sake. It's okay. Cheer up. There's 2 or 4 questions I want to ask you. I think the incense is a really important one. I'll do that one for sure. So ask about the incense. Although there's no tangible evidence, I think it's safe to assume your dreams are directly related to the use of this incense. So I'd like to know more about this lilac grass. When were you first exposed to it? When did you first enter this dream state? Just give me all the details from around that time, anything that happened before, during, and after. Anything could be a useful clue. Cecile lowers her head and starts pondering, trying to remember something. Sometime around the middle of September, I think. At the time, Eloise was getting into a lot of fights and arguments with others to defend me. I felt so bad seeing her like that, and I blamed myself. I was in a very dark place. Eloise approached me one day and told me not to worry so much. That's when she first gave me one of those bags. So that's when you started using it? Well, maybe once or twice a week. Although our club is always open, Thursday afternoon is a fixed recreational time for everyone. That already seems quite excessive. Also, I don't know if I should say this, but nobody really talks about it, but the weekly use of incense was Eloise's idea. She suggested it to the students. This is suspect. She said using it regularly over a period of 2 months may increase everyone's mood and mental performance. I see. Does she know where the incense comes from? I asked her that before, but she only said that her uncle, an expert on Chinese medicine, knows a lot about these things. She said making the incense is a real hassle. The wood has to be soaked in herbal water and is then cooked several times before being ground into powder. The herbs have strange names, so I can't remember any of them. Cecile looks frustrated. Don't blame yourself. Let's just look ahead. She said the first hallucination occurred after a prolonged period of use. Just over half a month, to be exact. Early October, then? But that's a national holiday. Our school doesn't really give us time off on holidays. Just to smile a little. Not having holidays doesn't seem that bad in comparison to everything else going on right now. Okay. Maybe we can ask everything. So let's ask about the art club. Can you tell me about your club? According to what you said yesterday, the situation of the art club is pretty much a powder keg waiting to blow. That sounds a little... well, it's somewhat true. You used that exact phrasing yesterday, Cecile. It's tougher than most people would assume. Although the teacher doesn't get involved too much, he sets up strict requirements. Students don't complain about that, though. They're used to it. You think the others might have it out for you because they don't think you're up to par? I think that could be one of the reasons. Yes. They've been giving me strange looks since the very beginning. Cult. Eloise helps me practice. I think if it wasn't for her, both students and teachers would be meaner towards me. Sounds tough. Why are you so blunt, dude? I used to feel pretty confident in my abilities, but now I compare myself to the others a lot, and I often doubt my skills. Being an artist is a profession, after all. Sad as it is, you have to gain recognition in these circles first. You're just not quite there yet, and it has nothing to do with whether you're good or not. Come to think of it, the greatest irony is that there are standards for art in the first place. Am I getting off topic? You don't have to be nice. There's a huge skill gap, and that's obvious. I'm far more inexperienced than the others. And you think they're going to use that against you and force you out of the club? That's what it seemed like to me, but things have calmed down a lot ever since Eloise butted heads with them and defended me. She really seems to go out of her way to help you. She really does. I just wish I was more courageous. Cecile looks sad. Regret, self-blame accompany her words. All I did was freeze. She stood up for me, a transfer student, and argued with everyone else. I was speechless and didn't know how to react. In the end, I just silently left the classroom. I was afraid I'd make things worse by saying something wrong. So their attention was on her, and she shouldered the blame. She told me not to think about it too much, but it still made me feel bad and selfish. What should I say? If you could just go along with it, maybe the conflict will resolve itself. I have no basis for saying that, but your choices aren't all bad either. Even if I know that deep down, I still can't accept it. For a moment, I saw my friend's eyes go sad. It must be hard for her, too. People don't act as reckless towards me as they did before. I'm not saying they like me, but they don't go out of their way to bully me as much anymore. Cecile's decision. How to know if something is right or wrong? Maybe this isn't the best moment to think about that.